Hello everyone, Logan Keister here, sitting out in this beautiful patch of Urtica dioica, which you probably know as stinging nettle. So I am really excited because this is one of our early spring greens. Right now it is March 10th, so we haven't even hit the spring equinox, but you can see some of this nettles is already almost over a foot tall. So it's pretty cool that we have such a nutritious edible spring green growing at this time. And so I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about what it took for me to find this patch of nettles, because it's actually kind of interesting. So when we first parked our car, we kind of noticed that there's some nettles growing right off the path and they're right along there. And it was really tempting at first to be like, oh man, look at all these nettles, let's go for it. But when you kind of think about it, well, what happens right along the trail? Well, people walk their dogs go to pee, they pee on this fresh plant that you're eating, other people go to pee. I've peed off that trail right in that area. It's like people, that's just what's gonna happen. And you have to worry about, well, has anyone dumped trash here? Or maybe someone dumped motor oil. So harvesting right off the trail is not usually a very good idea. But what I did was I decided to walk along the river and walk upstream from all that and survey and to see what the nettle stands looked like. So at first I was seeing small nettle stands, like, okay, I see a patch about 20 feet big, around here. And then once I came upriver a little ways, it just exploded right over here along this riverbank. I just am surrounded by hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of different individual nettle plants. And also they do grow rhizomatous, so a lot of these will be a single plant, but they're growing from these underground stems. So I'm already working with a little bit of nettle medicine. If you haven't used it medicinally, right now I just stung my wrists. Let's see, got a good view of that, Tiff? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if those of you might feel like, we call it stinging nettle because it does leave a pretty gnarly sting. So it's kind of interesting because we have this really watery, wet area that's dark and shady. And then we have this plant that's just growing up with these sharp, jagged leaves. Let me pull off one for you. So it has these very kind of jagged, serrated margins to the leaves. And it has all these little prickly hairs on it that sting you. And they contain formic acid crystals that will be injected into your skin, which cause the irritation. So if you've ever been bit by fire ants also have formic acid in their mouths. So it's a similar sting. So it's this tingly, pringling sensation. So why the heck would I sting myself on purpose? Well, I have actually found it to be one of the best uses for anytime there's pain, inflammation in a joint, a locked up shoulder, or arthritis. It can provide long-term pain relief. And simply it works as what we call in herbalism a rubefacient. So rubefacient basically means it kind of causes irritation to tissue, and that causes more blood flow to go into that tissue. It causes a little more an enhanced response of inflammation and more blood flow. And so we have to understand when blood's being brought to an area, that fresh, rich blood that's coming in is going to be nourishing and oxygenating the tissues. It's going to be bringing in immune cells. It's going to be bringing in cells to help rebuild the tissue and help draw the kind of immune cells to the body, get the kind of body's own vitality and immune healing response to that specific area of the body. So that's a real big benefit we get from using the nettle stings. So as someone who works with their hands a lot, plays guitar, writes, I get a lot of tension in my wrists and my hands, as well as my back. So sometimes I'll give a little sting to my lower back as well to help with back pain as well. But if you're not someone into stinging, I probably should mention the most easiest way is just making it into tea and eating it. I really love this green. When you cook it up, if you steam it a little bit or you saute it a little bit, the stinging sensation is instantly neutralized. So you won't have to worry about getting a stinging sensation in your mouth. Eat the leaf fresh without first kind of mashing it up or doing a little chew up of it and get some enzymes in there or some kind of way to saute it. It will sting the inside of your mouth. But if you cook it, it neutralizes the stinging right away. And you're left with this delicious, nutritious green that tastes kind of like spinach, but a little more oomph. A little oomph to it. Yeah. Because when we've looked at nettles, it's really, well, we can just garner this from where it's growing. So nettles really love really rich nitrogenous soils. So over here by the river and this creek, it's just like lots of slurps of mud and all this like organic debris that over long periods of time has just decayed into this rich, dark organic matter that is just feeding this nettle patch. And in that way, these nettles just have this resilience to them. They're just like able to start growing like in winter, be one of the earliest spring greens, and they just contain so much of that rich nitrogen. So they're actually quite high in protein, protein being a nitrogenous based compound, as well as just high in lots of other minerals. One that's really known well for is iron, so it's quite high in iron. So often people who are anemic and protein deficient, I really see it as people who are just lacking inner vitality and just kind of need to build themselves up, you know, dealing with like muscle weakness, debilitation. And energetically, we see the way it works on the body is it's a very drying remedy. It helps to move water from the body. So when we make a strong tea of it, we call it an aquaretic. So we've probably heard of diuretics, or if you haven't, a diuretic is an herb that makes you pee. And so certain herbs work to make you pee. One way could be like having a oil that might be like slightly irritating to the kidney that triggers it to stimulate urination. And then the other way, which was this with the nettle, aquaretic, means that it's super high in minerals. So it changes that kind of saline balance of the body and causes the body to want to expel water because of this fresh intake of salts and minerals into the body. So the body starts to shed off extra water due to the intake of minerals that are now displacing the water. Because it's something we commonly see is the salt will always follow the water. That's why when we drink salt water, it dehydrates us, because it causes the water to leave the body due to the excess concentration of salt. So another use for nettles is people often like to use it in allergies, and it's often due to this drying nature of it. It's also potent anti-inflammatory. So if you're in allergy season, you got like the runny nose, you're constantly like running nose and like dry sneezing stuff. If it's like you have like red, itchy, inflamed eyes, you know, it's going to help bring down inflammation, and it's also going to help to dry up those leaky tissues when you're like a lot of mucus is flowing out. It's going to help to dry that up. And there has been some research to show that it does have a bit of an antihistamine effect, though it doesn't seem to always work directly as antihistamine for everyone, although I seem to see some people who will have good use with like using fresh nettle tincture or the dried nettle anti often to help with acute allergy symptoms. And I guess I just like to stop by like just like talking about this kind of more archetypal principle of it just being this super fiery plant in this really deep, dark, wet place, and what that kind of represents. I almost see it being really good for people like that who are just kind of watery and stagnant, back down. They hold on to too much water. Maybe they have like edema, holding on too much water, and they feel really bogged down, and it's hard to get that energy out. And nettles can just be this really building thing. It helps to shed that excess water, build up, to nourish, to bring strength. And it has very martial qualities, if we're going to look at it that way. In medical astrology, we say it has a lot of qualities of Mars, and almost Mars combined with this water element, how it works on moving the water to the body with this very fiery, stinging, jagged nature. So that is all for today on nettles. I hope you all found that interesting. Please check me out. Notae Botanica, Logan Keister.